hottest podcast on the planet, JNP.
And we're back. CEO and founder of Need Financial Services in the house today. Doubles as my mother, Nancy Novo. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me, Johnny.
Oh, man. My mom, titan of industry, woman in business. And I know what everyone's saying. Got your mom on the podcast. Yes, I did get my mom on the podcast because my mom has a lot to say. Businesswoman, just an amazing person. So,
well, I hope I don't disappoint you today.
Oh my gosh, how have you been? What's new with you?
Just busy.
Busy at work.
Busy at work. Busy at home, and trying to continue to have some fun day by day.
What's the fun looking like for you these days?
Well, actually, today I spent time with a girlfriend of mine that I haven't seen in probably 8 months. So it was fantastic. We had a great day today.
That's amazing.
And been working out a lot, and I love to work out, as you know.
Yes, you do. Sometimes she'll be in her office just doing squats.
I know.
Gets a little crazy. But so for those who don't know, the studio is actually my mom's office. So we get the good deal on the rent and, you know, all that good stuff. So, but she built this whole thing, and it's really impressive for me to see growing up. Because growing up, it was just my mom. And now, as I've progressed in my life and in my career, I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky to have a mom who's done all this for herself and so loving and takes care of her kids. And because I actually work for my mom right now, which maybe people may or may not know. But
or you work for Need Financial.
I work for Need Financial Services. But it's just been really great for me to see how you operate business-wise, because that's something I never got to see when I was, I don't know, growing up, you know. And so it's given me this whole newfound respect and newfound appreciation for you.
Thank you. Well, we're glad you're here.
And so how tell us the story, the Need Financial story.
The Need Financial story. So
how many employees do you have?
I think we have about 30.
We're closer to 40, isn't it?
It may be closer. I don't know exactly the number. But we've got a really great team of staff, varying ages, varying levels of experience, and I think collectively have created a really nice culture and nice place to work.
Definitely.
So we are bi-coastal, and we are just launching our office in Chicago as well. So we have an incredible person there that is going to be heading up that office. So we feel very grateful and blessed to have, that new direction coming.
Right.
That's very exciting.
And so when people ask me this question, people ask me this question all the time, what do you do for work?
What do you do?
How do you answer that?
So I answer that we are a production accounting company where we handle the finances and all of the business responsibilities for companies in the entertainment industry, primarily commercial production. And we handle everything from the transactional work to the CFO level work, spending a lot of time with our clients on business strategies and helping them to move their business forward, because their success is our success.
Right. And
so
they're the creatives. So it's like...
most of the owners are creatives, and we certainly couldn't do what they do. Right. And they don't really understand or have the same level of experience in the financial acumen that we do. So it makes for a really nice partnership. Mm-hmm. And I love what I do. And we do not solicit business. It's all word of mouth. And we have been fortunate over the years to get to a point where we actually have more interest in our service than we have the capacity for. So
great problem to have.
Great problem to have, yes. Although I want to take everybody and work with everyone, but we can't do that.
Right. Not yet.
Not yet.
So how'd you get... what got you started? Take us way back.
Way back
way
is
back.
Way back.
Way back.
Sure. So my story, everybody has a story, and
Yeah.
everyone's story is different.
This is quite unique.
But I will own my story. And back in the day, well, you probably know this. I often live by my gut. So all the way back to high school, I loved USC, and I just wanted to go there. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the football team or, influences from people around me, but that was probably one of my very first long-term goals. I'm going to go to USC. Wasn't sure what I was going to do, but what then happened in high school, and had a great experience in high school, but what happened in high school is I had a teacher who saw my ability in sort of business, maybe accounting, and he actually pulled a few strings and got me into Cal State Northridge, which is university, in my senior year of high school to take an accounting course. And how he did it, I don't know, but I thank him all the time. So I actually took an accounting course, and that is what led me to apply to the School of Accounting at USC. So I went to USC, have to be honest, and I didn't really love accounting. I didn't love the school. I didn't love the people. I'm a sorority girl. I have lots of girlfriends, and in accounting, at least at that time, it was very competitive, very sort of compartmentalized, and you did your own work. Meanwhile, I want to, hey, let's share homework, and it was very competitive. So I actually hit a point in my junior year where I decided I was going to change majors, and I started working out and exercising, so I decided I wanted to switch to kinesiology. I took a kinesiology course, and this is it. This is what I want to do. So I called my parents and said, I'm going to change my major, and to which my mom, aka your grandmother, who is, Latin, fiery tempered at times, and said, no, you cannot do that. No. And of course, as she's saying no, I'm saying, watch me. And so I really wanted to change my major. And then a few days later, your grandpa called, my father, and the most patient man. Level-headed. And he posed it like this to me. He said, I know you love to exercise, and I know you want to work out all day long. But what you don't know is that having a business degree, you will always have a job, and you'll have a great job. And maybe that job will actually lead you to owning a gym or health club. But having the business acumen will give you the skill set that you need, and you can still teach, and you can work out all the time.
What a sell.
So I was like, okay, well, that made a lot of sense. And what he also talked a lot about is it's not easy to get into the School of Accounting. Not that I was the best student by far, but I was surviving. So I stayed, and then got out of school, graduated, was going to work for an accounting firm. Back in that time, in order to be a CPA, you had to work for a publicly held accounting firm, one of the bigger ones. Back then it was the Big 8. Now I think it's the Big 4. So 8 has been consolidated into 4. And I went on, the office visits, had an offer from one of the firms, and I happened to go to a lunch before I started, and we got a tour of the office, and the manager taking us around said, see, this is what you'll be doing. And as I looked across the room, there were people at a copy machine making copies. And not that I'm above copying, but I had that moment of, I can't see myself doing that.
Right.
I just can't. And I don't know why, but it just didn't feel right. So I I wasn't really sure what to do, but took the job. And at that point, when you graduate in May, you didn't start until September. So I had a lot of time. And then I had an opportunity, interviewed with Pepsi. And I was told by the recruiter that Pepsi's incredibly difficult to get into. And the HR fellow was pretty difficult to get past. So I took the interview, and he was probably 28 years old at the time. He was a Cornell grad on the swim team at Cornell. Why I know all of that in my interview, I don't know, but but he told me all of that. And, he proceeded to put his feet on the desk during my interview.
That's so arrogant.
And, so then I saw it as a challenge. Well, I'm going to see if I can get past this. And somewhere in there, I'm not really sure what was the deciding factor. He asked me to hold on and wait a minute. And I came back, and he wanted me to go meet the CFO. So I met the CFO.
Pepsi.
Of Pepsi Los Angeles, yes. And at the time, Los Angeles was one of the biggest markets in the country. So it was a bottling facility where we actually manufactured the product. And I got the job. And I knew I took the job on the spot. It felt right. It looked right. It just felt right in my gut.
Trust the gut.
Trust the gut. So I took it and spent 7 years of my life there. Learned an incredible amount. Being in a manufacturing facility, you actually get to see all aspects. You see production, you see the finance, you see the sales, the marketing, you see it all. So really, really fortunate to have that experience, and had an opportunity then to move to Toronto. I actually was going to get married. And we decided we were going to live in Toronto for family reasons, and went to Pepsi Toronto, and they were great to me. But I hit the 7-8 year mark, and I thought I need to try something different.
Right.
So I did. And we decided then to move back to LA. This is pre-children. And married, pre-children, and we decided we were going to come back and not really have a job and live free-spiritedly and see what happens. So we came back, and a couple months into it, my parents were wondering when we were going to get a job or going to start interviewing. So we did, and actually had an offer from Disney, but I couldn't see myself living in Burbank or that area. I really wanted to live in the South Bay. I had that experience of visiting the South Bay often when I was at USC. So that's really what I wanted to live. And just through a relationship I had in Toronto, someone called me and mentioned, have you ever heard of commercial production? And I said, no, which is crazy because this is a whole entertainment city. But it was a company that filmed television commercials, represented the talent, and then produced the spots. And I went to the interview. I knew right away. My gut just said, this is it. And that's how I got into this line of the business. And at the time, the gentleman who owned the company had multiple legal entities. And so I got this idea, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do in the long term of my career and where it would lead me to. And I had the idea, if we are creating separate financial statements for all 10 of his companies, why couldn't we do this in the industry? We keep the information confidential. We have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients and all of his companies. So I got that idea. And I went to him and asked him if he'd like to partner, to which he said no, which was crushing. Right. Because you have to be very courageous when you have an idea. And
so what gives you that courage? Because I don't know, at least in my life, I see a lot of people that they'll graduate from school of accounting and then kind of just work at a Deloitte or one of the big
Deloitte,
four,
Ernst, sure,
and then just kind of make a good amount of money. But you really took that leap to Like, so what gives you that courage? Because it's just not a common thing that I see a lot.
I think that lots of people have really, really, really great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all filled with ideas. But I also believe that the ability to execute is internal. And so I'm sure, and I know this to be about the need model now. I know lots of my peers and colleagues have had this vision. I'm the only one that executed.
Right.
That's all. That's the only difference.
Right.
It's not that they weren't skilled enough, but I do live in the space of what's the worst that can happen. And for me, the worst that could happen is I would have to go back and be a CFO of a company. And that isn't so bad.
Which you already were.
Which
right?
I had been for a long time. So I used to just think that way. I think that way to this day when I start something new or want to start something new, and I get restless about the space I'm in. What's the worst that can happen? To get a job, have to move. I don't know. You know,
right.
I think for me that always has impacted me, and so you might as well go for it. You know, you're not hurting anybody. So in this case, I mustered up the courage to ask him again. Only this time I fashioned it in the vein of, if I start this business, which I know you don't want to be a part of, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
I would love it if you would be my anchor client, and I will give you a 50% discount on your staffing costs. Which, you know, looking back, I probably could have said 25%, but I didn't. To which he couldn't say no.
Right, because it's saving money.
Half,
half
yes, right. And we were a staff of 7, so imagine the savings.
Definitely.
So
like, what's in it for him?
He continued to have the same staff working on his business with the same sort of fortitude and the same discipline that we had, where it's confidential. And he saved a lot of money.
Yeah.
But, you know, the sort of downside for him is, you know, after a while, we weren't always available.
Right.
You know, he could walk in and we were his staff, so we did whatever he needed and we jumped. This got to a point where we said, can we call you back? And that changes the relationship a bit.
Definitely.
But he was always so gracious and kind, and so grateful for that as well.
Right. So then you took the leap.
Started Need in 2003.
Dang, 16 years.
It's crazy. And we've expanded, we've grown. We continue to explore different business segments and opportunities. And we just, I think, continue to do A-level work.
Love it. So working with other, like, because you're one of the not few, but I just don't see a lot of women entrepreneurs like I do men, or, you know, taking that leap, taking that risk. And like, so what do you have for other women out there that are trying to start their own business or thinking about taking that leap, but, you know, just a little.
Well,
what's your
for
opinion
all
on
of
that?
my life, I have been a small Hispanic woman. It is what it is. I had a mother who would say to me, I can't do anything about your height. I can't do anything about being Hispanic. I can't do anything about any of that. So you have to own it, and you have to just do something positive with it. Because I think we all go through, or I went through a stage where, why can't I just have blonde hair? I wanted to be blonde. And, but you have to get to a point that I guess I could have dyed my hair and been blonde, but I wasn't. So I just got to a point, and it took a long time. It takes a long time for everybody to own their own identity. And I never wanted to be reliant on anybody for my career, who I am. I wanted a partner who I didn't need but wanted to be with. And so that was sort of it's what sort of gave me the strength to do these things. And it's not easy. It's not, certainly not. You have ups and downs, and you wonder, am I doing the right thing? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. When I left Pepsi, they hired 2 gals to replace me. Looking back now, I started to realize, wow, they should have probably brought somebody else in to help me. But I didn't think that way. And one of those gals is still at Pepsi and, sits on the board, and it's fantastic. So, and I feel like I found her, I hired her, and I had a little part in that. So that's great.
Yeah, you got a good eye for the talent.
I think so.
Clearly.
I think so. I hope so. So you just have to, and we women, we are different than men. There's no question.
I can't say that.
No, you can't say that, but I can. And, if we just own who we are,
when you say different, what exactly do you... What sense are you saying that?
Yeah, I think that women, if you choose to bear children, it's different for a woman who carries a fetus and has a baby in her womb for 9 months. Not to say that, a father doesn't love his child as much, but you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And you go through the pains of being a young mom and not wanting to work and wanting to be home, and the guilt of, I want to pick up my kids from school. I don't want to have to work, but I want to have all that money. I want. And we can't have it all the time. But if you can find pockets of your life where, okay, I'm going to dial it back for a little bit right now while my kids are young. We have a few women in our company who actually don't work 1 day a week, and they have time to spend with their family. Mm-hmm. They work really hard. They work really hard in the evenings or, early morning to kind of make up for that time that they're not here in the office. But I do think that they're in a happier place. So we women have to think of it differently. Do I think there's a glass ceiling? I don't. I think that we have to make sacrifices, as everyone does. But I don't feel like there's really a glass ceiling.
And when you say glass ceiling, you mean?
Well, you'll hear a lot about there's a glass ceiling, so a woman can get up to this point,
but a man
she can't get through. But a man can.
Right.
He's on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, that hasn't been my experience. Have I felt small? Certainly. Have I felt things weren't fair? Absolutely. But I get to control my story, and I get to control what I do. And that, once you own that, if you do your very best and it doesn't happen, then I believe in God, other people believe in universe, whatever they believe in. But I do believe that if you've done your very best, then if it doesn't happen, it wasn't meant to be. Mm-hmm. Because you can't force something. You can only give 100% of your 50% in any relationship, in any, whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship. And then if the other party chooses, I don't want to do this any longer, there's nothing you can do. Mm-hmm. As long as you've given all of that. So
right. And that's something I've said on the podcast before. I quoted you. I
saw that. I actually saw that. It was really, thank you.
And I just love that aspect of it. Because if you give your all, like it's never always going to work out. Like sometimes you're going to give 110% of your effort, and it's just not going to work out. But you controlled all you could control.
That's right. And everybody has their own story. I've been through, I'm just older, so I see things perhaps a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. On the other side of it now. But, we think, we want to be like that person. But whether you grew up not very affluent, or if you grew up affluent, even affluent people struggle sometimes. Could you imagine, well, you don't have to worry about your parent being a billionaire, but could you imagine your parent being a billionaire? And what are you going to do in life? Everybody mm-hmm. thinks it's so much easier. It's not necessarily easier. It's just different. Or you could grow up, with not a lot, and then it becomes, I grew up with not a lot.
Right.
And I worked really hard. I do a lot of visualizing. I think about, okay, what is it that I want? Where do I see myself? And you kind of work towards that, or that's how I've done it. You visualize, manifest,
but the one thing about you that I love with that, it's you're visualizing things that you truly want.
That's
not
correct.
that you're like, oh, so and so did this, so I want to get this. It's
That's
like,
correct.
I want to live on this street, which you did, and
Which
then
I did.
now
That's
you do live on that street.
Right,
I
which doesn't happen to be the very best street in the South Bay,
Right.
but it's the street that we were aspiring to, and very, very happy.
Mm-hmm. You did that, and like you've done a bunch of stuff like that. Like you wanted to get me and Michael into a school, and got us into that school.
That's right.
Just all that different stuff, but it's for you, which is.
Well, it's for you because,
or for me.
But to give everybody opportunities and maybe an opportunity to be their very best self, or
Right.
to live and be exposed to things that they might not have been exposed to. So, but again, we did all the things that we had to do to help whatever it was, whether on our street, your dad and I put probably 6 offers on different homes, and probably the first 4 I was crying when we didn't get them. And then that was over the span of probably 5 years. It's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Or it seemed like an eternity
Yeah.
then. And then by the last 2, I was like, well, we did what we could, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And then you just let it go, and then it happened. And I love where we live. So, but a lot of that's just wisdom and experience. And I have found that anything I can let go of in life has always served me well. Always.
Let go of
The angst or the control. I'm trying to control something, and the only thing you can control is yourself.
right.
You can't control if you want to buy a house, you can't control what the other person's going to do. You can't control the other side of interviewing for a job. I can't control anything that isn't remotely in me.
Right.
So I can control how I look or my hair or those sorts of things. But, I can't make, well, I guess I can do straight hair out of curly hair. But, I just got to a point where just accept who I am and what I have and stay grounded.
Amazing. I don't know. That's what I love about you so much. Like you work so hard, but at the same time, like you were always there, for me and Michael growing up, and like it's not like you weren't around. Like I feel like some parents that run their own businesses is like you should never see them kind of thing. And so like you always had that great balance, and like, so can you speak on that a little bit, like that balance that you have? Because you'll be up. I'll like come home at like midnight sometimes, and you're on your computer working, like looking at
Right.
income statements or whatever.
Well, there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And so you just have to learn to manage it in your life. I do work hard, and I'm probably a workaholic. But I don't think that's always a bad thing. So I learned to kind of regulate my life and play when I could. I try to give people opportunities that I didn't have. I've grown up in my working career with predominantly men. And I know men sometimes get, a lot of grief for how they treat women. I happened to have the best mentors in my life have been men. Yeah, there were some men that were really difficult to work with, but there were some that were really fabulous. And so without them being a part of my career, I certainly would not be sitting here.
Right.
100%. So I don't think all men do that. You just have to find your mentor, and
Right.
you have to learn to work with them and respect them. So I got the advice at one point, like, you want to pick up your kids from school one day a week. There's people that are going to really not support that. So don't give them a reason to not support that. So I just made sure I checked in. This was all pre-cell phone, so I had my sort of, colleagues in the office, and I'd call in, is everything okay? But I'd pick you guys up from school, and we'd have our time. And one of my really close friends know this. I have for many years, I will have a nap. I used to nap with you guys when you'd go to sleep, and I would nap for 30, 45 minutes, get up, and I'd work till, 1 in the morning. I'm very fortunate that I'm a person that needs probably 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. And I can function. So that's what I did.
And I don't know if you would agree with this, but this is something that I see about you. It's like for you, it's not I work and then I go home. Like I work for 8 hours. I go home, then go back to work. For you, it's just all intertwined. It's just one big life,
Yeah.
and that's what I see in the people that are successful and happy. It's just it's one life. It's not like, oh, okay, I work from 9 to 5 and then go home and hang out with it's just, it's just intertwined.
Yeah. Well, my career has afforded me to have the things that I have in life, my family, all the great things that we've done as a family have all been as a result of the career that your dad and I have had. Mm-hmm. And yes, you can compartmentalize for a moment, but they all are meaningful. Right. So, if I'm on vacation and somebody has to call me, I'm going to take the call. Mm-hmm. It's not the end of the world. And
it's because it's you too. It's your baby,
Sure.
And that has to mean so much to you as well. Like
it does.
Something to be so proud of too. Which is
sure. And look, we've had turnover in our staff. Mm-hmm. We're not immune to that either. And my goal always is for people to leave with, having them feel like we did right by them, and for us to keep our heads up high and kind of help in that transition, because it stings. It can really sting. But
definitely.
But at the same time, people have their lifestyle, their own career, and they have to do what's best for them. Mm-hmm. So I can't say that it's always easy, but
you can't take it personally.
You can't take it personally.
Right.
Even though sometimes you do. You try not to.
So just touching off. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Just touching off something you said earlier. You said how you think like some of the best mentors in your life have been men. What about working with women? How has that been for you? Is it the same? Is it different?
I've had some good experiences, and I've had probably the most challenging experiences have been with women.
You choose your words so carefully.
I do. That I think sometimes when a relationship with a woman is difficult, it always like makes me step back and think, wow, I would have never thought this was going to be like that, because I want to have especially other women's backs. If you're a young mom, or if, you're going through whatever challenge you're going through in life, like I would always think that you have each other's backs, but that's not always the case, because they're going through whatever they're going through, and
like
you have
less
to
so
accept
than
that.
Men, would you say? Or is it?
I actually think for me, what I started to realize is that I had a different expectation for women.
Choose your words so carefully.
And when you expect, you will always be disappointed.
Expectation is the root of all heartache.
I have learned not to have expectation, and just learn to accept, and learn to really kind of understand that whatever that person is going through in their life, they had to do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Interesting take.
It's just probably experience.
Right.
Experience of that.
But that's like ties into what you were saying earlier, just letting things go. It's like letting those expectations go, so then you can have a clear mind kind of
that's
thing.
Right. And so hopefully people, if somebody leaves the company, or a relationship is the friendship is challenged, maybe it's just that moment in time. It doesn't mean you can't ever speak to that person again,
Right.
but maybe it's that moment in time. It's just not the right time. And everybody's got different things to go through. But I've gotten to a point in my life where rather than spend the energy on something that might really make me angry, I just kind of let it go and not kind of harbor any anger, because that doesn't serve me well. And I really feel like I'm a big believer in karma, as you know, and I really believe that karma will take care of it. And I have seen many people receive karma. Then I feel bad that their karma comes, but I've seen it firsthand. So I just kind of let it go and wish them well.
That's a great way to look at life, though, because it's just so freeing. You're not holding grudges against anybody. You're not holding anger towards anybody. And so when you do that is when you act emotionally, irrationally, and I'm still working on that.
Well, you're young, and it's interesting because in a lot of your podcasts, a lot of the theme you do here
She listens to everyone, by the way.
I do. but sort of a resounding theme throughout all of them is people really trying not to judge others,
right.
and to be grateful. And it was quite inspiring how the group that you've had thus far are quite mature and quite eager, and it really makes me have a lot of faith in the future, because you all are our future. So
That makes me happy.
Quite inspiring. I'm happy every time I hear one. I go, wow. And I learn something from everybody.
And it's like, I don't know, one interesting thing that I've taken from that, it's like thinking you wouldn't get that from, like, I didn't think that about any of those people. I didn't think anybody I had on would kind of take that step back. And because a lot of the theme is social media too, how that's like affecting their life in a generally negative way. There are obviously some positives, and it's been a big topic on here, but it's like when you sit down and talk with somebody, it's on such more of a real level.
Sure.
And it gives me a lot of faith too, and like my generation. And
is everybody nervous when they start this?
Everybody's nervous.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. Because I was actually a little nervous.
Right? No, yeah.
Not sure what I'm going to talk about.
It's like the little butterflies, but that means you're doing something worthwhile too. When you get those little excited butterflies. And
definitely.
So that's why I commend everybody that comes on here. It's not an easy thing to come and sit and talk.
No, it's not.
So it's
not. It was interesting. I'm reading Michelle Obama's book,
Becoming
Obama. And one of the things she talked about in there, which I loved, and I've really just started, but she talked about how creating sunshine in your space for others. That like really resonated with me, and I thought that's who I want to be. I want to be able to create sunshine for other people and create a space where they walk into that and you feel happy about it.
Right. And I love, you are that. You are that. But I feel like, correct me if you feel differently, but for me, it's like, I just talking on that, the sunshine at like people feeling sunshine in your presence. Is that kind of the idea of it?
Sure.
It's for me, I give that off best when I'm happiest with myself. And to be happiest with myself, I have to be a little selfish at times.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so I think that's a big thing, that because some people just try to make other people happy all the time, and you're just not going to be happy then, and as a result, people aren't going to want to be around you as much.
Well,
I don't know.
I think you can even
twisted. Crazy.
For me, I have always exercised, and it is a priority for me and my health. But it became a priority because I could feel the difference in my psyche on any given day. Taking hot yoga, just sweating out all the toxins. I make sure I go once a week, regardless, and if I don't, I can feel the difference, and
That's crazy, right?
and so I think that in some regard speaks to what you're saying. You have to be a little selfish because that's my time.
Right. Exactly.
And, even working out, some people go work out with their friend and they do a particular workout just because, they're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But, it's rare that I'm in hot yoga with anybody that I really know. because most of my peer group wouldn't dare step in that room. So my friends don't want to come with me.
Right.
But
But that's your time.
I've learned to see that as my time. And if it's 2 hours a week, it's fantastic. So, but I've always been that way. You guys grew up being in a baby jogger, and we were out at 6 a.m. before, you could even walk.
Yeah.
So for me, I really learned that I needed that for my psyche. And if I go out for a jog, I have lots of conversations with people that I'm either upset with or I have a lot to say to, but I never say it to their face. So rather than say it
to yourself,
say it to myself, because rather than say it to a friend or anyone that I'm talking to, I'm gossiping. And I don't want to be that person, because the moment you tell somebody a secret, you have opened yourself up to that person repeating it.
Definitely.
Forever. So choose carefully.
I never thought about it like that.
Because when you tell somebody, don't say anything, you're actually telling them you can say something, because they control that.
Right, because you said it.
You said it.
In the first place.
Right. And that's how gossip starts and rumors. So I've learned that when I want to say all the terrible things that I want to say to somebody, I do it on a run. And I feel much better at the end of it.
That's amazing. Do you do that when you're have a big meeting or something too, or rehearse it to yourself?
Absolutely.
That's,
when I know I'm having a potential client meeting, or I know I have to have a meeting with a client that's being difficult, and we call them George or Georginas in the office.
Wait, why do you call them that? I don't know
that's just become sort of our name for they're difficult. They're being a George or they're being a Georgina.
Right.
If I know I'm having something like that, I will always either hot yoga, run, get on something that makes me sweat so I can get that angst out, because we all have it.
And you've always told me, whenever I get upset or in a mood, it's just go for a run, Johnny. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go for a run, Mom.
Right.
But I've started running now, and it's so mind-clearing.
And do you feel it?
Oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I get a little anxious about something, or I just go out, put my headphones in, go for a run, and it's
that's
a beautiful
good.
sun, and I feel great. Yeah, but I've resisted that for so long.
Well, look, because we don't want to. It's similar to me back when I was in college, and my mom saying, "No, you can't change your major. You can't change your major." Watch me. And so it's hard.
Yeah.
But when you feel it, and if you feel that something like that makes a difference for you, then you just do it. And you embrace it, and because. I can't reiterate enough that the moment you speak negatively, poorly about someone else, whoever you're talking to, you've given them license
to repeat it.
Yes.
Yeah, that judgment's scary. It's because
Happens
then you
all the
become
time.
that person too.
A little bit, for sure. And really, we're just hurt.
That's what it comes down to.
We feel bad that someone didn't choose us or want us or want to work with us, and it's their life, So, but if you can just find a different platform than telling someone else, then I think it'll always serve you well.
Definitely. So, how do you see just back to my age group, we were touching on? What do you see the difference in when you were our age versus when we were our age? I don't know, because I feel like we have short attention spans.
Attention span. Yes.
Attention spans. And I don't know. I just feel like it's a whole different ball game. Nobody wants to pay their dues, get delayed gratification.
Your generation has grown up where a lot of people love to say you're all entitled. A lot of people love to say that you're spoiled. But the reality is, who did that? We did as parents. We raised you. We taught you all to have a voice. Go in and talk to your teacher and ask your teacher why. everything. We've taught you, go in and talk to your coach and ask your coach, why aren't I playing? Why am I not doing that? But what we didn't realize is that was going to extend over into everything else you did. And while sometimes that can serve you well, we have situations where your age group feels like after 6 months, I've mastered it and I need something new.
Right.
And I'm not sure that's always the case. And it's the sort of idea of demanding. But I think that our generation really contributed to that as parents. We've taught you, go do all these things. You're well traveled. You're going out with your friends. You're going to camp with your friends. You're doing all these things, and go in and talk to the adult, because we pay a lot of money for you to be in this private school. So go in and don't let them treat you like that. Whereas my generation grew up with just utter respect as how you never challenge, you never question. And I questioned one time that really resonated with me. Actually, one at USC when I was taking an auditing class, and I recalled saying to my professor, I don't understand how an auditor can be independent if the company is paying for the service, which he did not like at all. At all. And, it was very dismissive, and which then years later, I thought, well, I was right.
Were you right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was. So, it's about relationships, right? And then I had another situation when I worked at Pepsi, and I was asked to go to a meeting. And at the time I joined Pepsi, there weren't many women in the finance group. So I went to a sales meeting and was representing my boss, who was a CFO, and he couldn't attend. So I went, and there were about 20 people in the room, and it was the meeting was going to be led by the head of sales for all of Los Angeles. And he was about probably 55, which of course all of us thought was ancient. But he walked in the room, and I was the only female in the room.
Out of 22, you said?
Out of 20 people. 22 people. And he looked around the room, and he looked at me, and he said, can you please take my notes for my meeting? And I said, no, actually, I can't. And he was so angry. And the entire room just went silent.
Wait, what year was this in?
Probably 1986.
Oh, yeah. So
yeah,
you were
not
bold
bode
for
well.
that.
Yeah. But I was like infuriated.
As you should have been. No? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, actually, I thought I was in the right. Except for when the meeting, and he just turned around and then never looked at me the rest of the time, and he led his meeting. And so by the time I had to drive, because it was an offsite location, and by the time I got back to our office, my boss called me in. And I had a couple of guys in the room come up to me afterwards and like, you know what you just said to like the vice president of sales in all of Los Angeles, the biggest territory in the country. You know what you just did to him, right? And I was like, no, what? Why would you want me to take his notes? I'm not there to take his notes, because I was sassy.
But
so my boss called me in, and who, by the way, was one of my mentors, my very first mentor in business. And he told me that he wanted me fired, that John had called. Yeah, his name was John. John had called him on my way back and wanted me fired. And he said, you're not going to get fired, but let's just take a step back. I just want you to understand his position. Like, okay. And he said, he has only known women in business to be in a secretarial position. That's all he's ever known.
It's his reality.
That's his reality. And so you were not wrong, because you weren't there to take his notes. But in the future, because it will happen to you again, you might want to just say, may I speak to you privately for a moment? And I was like, okay. He said,
I guess, but
you know, when you sort of felt like you were being marginalized or he picked you because you were the woman, he did, because that's all he knew.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he said, you are going to experience this many times in your career, many, many, many times. The difference is going to be is how you handle it. So, and he was right.
So
I'd get it.
He has a good
so
head
many
on his
times.
shoulders.
Yeah. Well, and he was a male,
Yeah.
but he cared,
Right.
and he wasn't young. You know, he was in his 50s as well, but somehow he saw it differently. So, I try to always put myself in the other person's shoes, and before I react, I think about, okay, where are they coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Where, you know, and it's okay. You know, I had your brother, and I'm driving home from the hospital, and I walk in our home and get a call from a director. I really want to know why I haven't been paid. You know, just had a baby.
Right.
So it's okay. You just learn to handle
How'd you
those
handle
things.
that one?
I said, I will find out, and probably won't be me, but I'll have somebody get back to you within the next couple hours.
Right.
So I did, made a phone call. I had a brand new baby in my hands, you know. So, but again, he didn't, he probably knows better now.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
that was just his reality. So, it's no sweat off my back. Why was I going to get mad at him?
Right.
Just figured out how to handle it. And
It's not going
all
to
good.
help you at all.
Yeah. And he's one of my very dear friends now.
Really?
Yes. So, not a bad person.
Right.
Just that was
It's reality. like you
his
said.
experience of what he was going through. So, yeah.
Definitely. And then, so is that the toughest? Those been like the two toughest scenarios you've been in as a woman in business? Or you don't have to speak on anything you don't want to speak on, but
No, I think every one of them is tough. There have been so many, but
you still get them, or is it less and less?
Still get them, but they're a little easier to navigate through now because I don't take it personally so much anymore. So there's always something, there's always someone, whether it's male, female, there'll always be that. But what I do love about the structure of the company is that we have a multitude of clients. So if one of them goes away, for whatever reason, then my livelihood is really not affected by that much.
No one controls you.
Well, I control my own story.
Right. You pick your words so carefully.
Yeah. And so again, but if our client is successful, we're successful. So our goal is to work with clients that we like and that will be a part of their journey in terms of their success. So,
right.
And sometimes those relationships, come to an end, and that's okay too.
You got to be prepared for that.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, in this industry, a lot of the businesses are privately owned. So they're going to mature. The businesses will mature. And if a company owner decides I'm going to retire and just close out, they have that's
Right.
their choice.
Yeah.
And so the model of creating something to have multiple clients allows us to be shielded from those experiences and not have us close our doors.
Is that something you always saw for
Definitely.
yourself?
Definitely. Well, I had an opportunity to stay in production, but to become an executive producer. And I thought long and hard about that, but my children were very, very young at the time, and I knew it was going to require a tremendous amount of travel. And as flattered as I was, I didn't have the wherewithal to take that risk. But I do think I would have done really well at that as well. But I didn't want to be away from my family. So I made that choice. Doesn't mean I made the wrong choice, but I also understand the business, that's the requirement. If I wanted to be working with talent and they're on set and it's shooting in Washington and it's my kids' back to school night,
Yeah,
I'm not going to back to school night. And I really wanted to be able to go to back to school night.
Right.
So those are the choices I made, but it all kind of worked out. Yeah.
Definitely worked out. So was that before or after need that you got offered that?
Before need.
Before need.
When I was, I live by my gut. We you know that. And I was looking to where my future was going to go. What was I going to do? It's hard to think about, okay, back then, are you going to retire? But at some point, so what feels right for me? And as I'm doing in that journey of a search, things start to pop up. I had a couple different offers of, again, I had a lot of Pepsi alumni go to Disney, and then they ended up in other places. So I'd get calls, my old boss at Pepsi is the CEO of United Airlines. I mean, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Shout out to Oscar. But good for him. That's fantastic,
amazing.
So, but when you're searching for your next phase of life, you have to kind of weigh the things that are important to you. And it's different for everyone. My family was paramount to me because I knew that after this is all said and done, that what's left is my family. And so I wanted to make sure that I could be present in their lives as much as I could. So that was my choice. Made the choice actually quite easy.
Right.
Because I
knew what you wanted.
Yeah. And those are the things, but would I have done great as an EP? I think so, but I wanted something a little bit different on the long term.
Love it. I love it. Well, we got to start wrapping up a little bit.
What?
I know, it's been an hour already.
Wow. Okay.
Isn't that quick? Wait, 57 minutes.
All right.
Last question I like to ask everybody.
Okay.
So it kind of takes a different shape for everyone, but like where is your happiness going forward? Where do you see yourself?
That's a question the next 10 years, and you're probably looking at me going, 10 years.
I didn't say 10 years. I just said, where's
I think you might have said it on your last one, right?
Well, I did, because we talked about a 10-year visualization thing. So
we did.
You see my.
So looking ahead, which probably it's not really that challenging for me because I do that all the time. I try to,
Right.
Looking ahead, I would say that I want to remain healthy in my body, my mind, and my relationships. That is probably the most important piece for me, whether it's a family relationship or a business relationship. I want that to remain healthy. I want to be able to be financially comfortable so I can be generous. Philanthropy is a really big part of my life.
I didn't even touch on that.
I know.
Oh, next time.
It's a very, very big part of my life, and I want to be able to always participate in that. I want to stay relevant. I think that my age group really is trying to navigate through their relevance. What do the next several years look like for me if I retire, or how do I still have a hand in something?
Right.
So being relevant, we can't all work at the pace we worked at when we were 30, but I still think that we have a lot of ability to be impactful. And then I want to, continue to be faithful. I love my faith. I just want everyone to have some kind of faith in their lives. It doesn't matter to me what it is. I just want people in general to have faith because I do believe there's something bigger than all of us. And I want to have fun with my husband and family and friends and just have a good time. So,
okay. One more question, then we can get out of here.
Okay.
Advice for my age group. What
Advice for your age group. Don't leave anything to regret. For example, if you're angry with someone and you don't want to go to their, you're older than 21, but let's say their 21st birthday party, and you're really mad at that person, and so you don't go, even though you're invited, you never get that opportunity to participate in that again. So hold your head up high and just go. Find a mentor, whether it be male or female, because everybody needs a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Respect the older generation, because they have laid a path for all that you have. And whether or not you agree with what they say, just respect what's been created for you. Mm-hmm. 'Cause that'll help you as you really sort of get in further in your career, your relationships. Right. Do your best, and then let it go. I think I might have said this earlier, to God or the universe. And then lastly, always own a good pair of shoes. Always. Got to always own a good pair of shoes.
You're amazing. Nancy Novo, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Have
Love
you.
you.
On again soon. I love you.